Welcome to another Conundrum podcast, where I get to talk to another fascinating guest from the Atlantic provinces. This time I'm speaking with the Sussex Barber himself, founder of Sussex Beard Oil Merchants, amazing human being, Mr. Matt White. I've been using the Sussex Beard Oil products since day one. Not to make this into an advertisement because I'm not sponsored or paid to say this, but they're Sussex Beard Oil. And also they've got other products like the beard balms, and they also have the canvas care for tattoos. Just amazing products. They're locally made in New Brunswick, in Sussex, obviously. Just fantastic products, and do check them out. So yeah, not to go off topic. So let's get to my guest. Matt is such an inspirational guy. He's got so many cool stories and life lessons and great outlook. His positivity is infectious. So let's just get to it. Enjoy my conversation with Matt White. I just see glasses and a toque.
Glasses and then I have a white backdrop. I've broken every video rule
Perfect.
in existence.
Perfect.
So see, my job in life is to set the bar really high.
Yes.
So I'm proof that if I can do it, anybody can.
There you go.
Right? That's it.
You're an inspiration to many.
I am an inspiration to the multitude.
How you been? It's been a long time.
Man, it's been ups and downs, and it's been like a multitude of stuff in the last little while.
Yeah.
I'm going to adjust this just a second here. I'm going to do away with that and bring this in. I mean, when I started my business, actually my business started in a closet. So at least now I'm out in the bedroom area.
So you've upgraded from the closet to the bedroom.
Yeah, and I would have done the video from the shop, but somebody's still there doing cuts and stuff.
Okay.
So how's this? Is this better?
Dude, it's been fine since the start.
Okay, my whole face doesn't fit in the picture, but I can bring it up so people can see there is an end to it.
I would advise against trimming that.
Yeah, so no, it's gosh. I just realized yesterday. Have we started already?
We started before.
Okay,
we started.
And I wasn't sure if I was pretty enough. Okay, so anyway,
this is gonna be so good.
Okay, so no, but I just realized this week that it was 10 years ago that I started the business. I can't believe I don't know where the time went. I mean, it's hard enough being a grandfather now, thinking yesterday I was holding my own son, who's now 22.
Yeah.
And now I'm holding my grandson, who is 6 months old, from my oldest daughter. And I'm thinking, where did time go? It's just gone so fast. But when I look at it, there's been so much that's happened in this space of time.
Yeah.
We moved here, I think, well, it would have been 10, 11 years ago, we moved into this area from Fredericton. And I started the business not long after that.
Yeah.
And so I can't believe it's been that long. I remember thinking back, it's so funny with the memories that come up when you're thinking about past things that, it took me 6 months to come up with the stinking smell. Not that the smell stinks, but
no. We're going to get into all of that. I want to get into.
Okay. Well, you set the pace here. There's so many bunnies flying around.
Yeah, I get you, man.
They'll have great trims.
Speaking of the 10 years ago, I've been using the Sussex Beard Oil since 2013.
Wow.
And I mean, like, look at this. See that?
Ooh, they're one of the originals, man.
Still got one. Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's nice.
So basically, my wife is from St. John,
Yes.
and we're in the Miramichi, and we'd moved to Miramichi in 2007. Um, but before that, we were living in St. John when we had our son, and then so we went back to visit during the holidays, and this was when the Rhoda's flea market was going on, and that was the whole
Yes.
purpose of the trip.
Yeah.
So she was walking around, just and then she came upon your booth,
Wow.
and she said you were talking with somebody, and she kind of waited around because there's this guy with this amazing beard with this just full of energy. So she was like, well, Andre's been growing a beard for a while. He's had one for a while, and I've never seen this whole beard oil product stuff. So she wanted to wait to see what it was all about. So she got to talking to you, and then you're a great salesperson because she came home with the whole kit. you know,
Well,
and she
yeah.
couldn't wait. She couldn't wait for Christmas. So
Oh,
like literally the next day, like she's hummed and hawed over it overnight, but the next day she's like, I can't wait because this is just like, you're gonna love this so much. So she gave me the full kit, had the oil, had the balm, had the brush, the comb, and the
yeah.
sack or whatever it
Yeah.
came in. So like I said, I've been using it since 2013.
Wow.
And so I remember there was a slogan early on. I don't know if it was from the get, but I remember hearing you say it, and I don't know where you got it. So maybe you can kind of elaborate. But behind every beard is a chin,
Yes.
and behind every chin is a man with a story.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I want to get your story because I've never heard your full story.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, that saying came out of a late night session with the guy who coached me to do the Dragon's Den. I had a friend who could be a dragon himself. He's that influential and that good. And he took time out of his busy schedule to come down and make me go over my pitch over and over until I almost threw up. And through it, we kept going through these things, and he said, well, what do you want? I said, I want it. It's not about the beard, it's about the man behind the beard. And so we eventually came up with that thing, because that's always been one of my I like people, but I like to know where they come from, how they got to be who they are, and if and in the past I've dealt with I've uh, done counseling, marriage counseling, teen counseling, um, and I always love to tap into that thing that person may not be aware of that is their story, because you'd be surprised how many people walk around thinking, who am I, right? I got nothing, I got no story, I'm just me.
Imposter syndrome for the most part.
Right, exactly. So,
Yeah.
but when you see your life through somebody else's eyes, it's like everybody, once they're in there, they enjoy being the movie of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's got that potential to be movie of the week in some way. And so anything I've ever done has always been about pushing people, encouraging people, trying to find the best and pulling it out. So anything I've done has kind of been connected to that.
Mm-hmm.
There's always been, if you wanted to know what my connected baseline has been, it's always been that true bottom desire to see people's best come out. And through the years, I've gotten to have the experiences with people who, again, felt like they had nothing, only to find out they had so much. And my favorite part is when their light comes on and they discover, hey, man, I actually have a story.
Yeah.
And to see them recognize how magnificent they are in their own minds, like you can't replace that moment for
Yeah.
anything, right?
Yeah. It's become trendy to kind of not be your own fan,
Right,
you
right.
know,
Yeah,
like to,
well, because it's a false sense of humility.
mhm,
Oh, I want to be humble, so
yeah,
I'm the worst of them all.
yeah.
Oh, no, you're not. Oh, yes, I am. It's like, oh, don't,
But yeah. But I mean that, and that's the whole. I mean, we're all human. We all come from the same thing, right? So like we all have those same feelings. We all have those same self doubts. You
yeah,
know, the same anxieties. You know, I mean, some people have more anxiety than others. You
right.
know, but that's the whole connective tissue that we're all human beings, and we all, like you say, we all have our story and our backgrounds and what shaped us as people to then, you know, become the adults, you know, people living
Right.
on this planet together, you know.
Yeah, it's like we all seem to be born with the same question.
Yeah.
And the question is, am I good enough?
Hmm.
And so from the moment you're born till you actually put your personality together, you have things that will happen to either deteriorate that question or to support the answer,
Yeah.
right? So you'll get an answer, but depending on your support system, what you have in your life, and the different things,
Hmm.
your answer might develop into something different.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can we, as I used to talk to people about the 5 foot circle, that if everyone lived with an imaginary 5 foot circle, that they became responsible for whatever came within that 5 foot circle to leave it better than they found it. And it came, for me, that whole idea came when I was like walking on a sidewalk and there was a chip bag and it was far enough away from me that I could ignore it, right? It's not my responsibility. It's not my chip bag.
Hmm.
Dude, I didn't eat the chips. It's not my bag. Anyway, but the wind blew it in towards where it was closer to me, like within a 5 foot circle. And I went, oh, dang, that now has become part of my life. Now I decide what I'm going to do with it. How am I going to behave with something that now I'm aware of?
Hmm.
And it was out of just that little moment that I realized that, okay, I have to daily be conscious of my 5 foot circle. So whatever and whoever comes into it, that the first thing that comes to my mind has to be, how can I improve this situation? And I don't always get it right,
Hmm.
and I don't always remember. But oftentimes, when something comes into my path, I think, okay, it's my responsibility to do something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. That whole, yeah, social responsibility. Like people need to
Yeah, I mean,
take more of that.
it's a
Yeah.
shame that it's, like you say, it's a shame that it's now becoming trendy and sexy to look after the fellow man, or to be conscious of the ground, the earth. You know,
Yeah.
I wish we didn't wait for things to be trendy to do the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. Do the right
Right,
thing because it's the right thing to do.
right, right. It's like, if I wrote a book about my life, it would be titled The Accidental Human, because I'm not that complicated that I can deliberately plan to do things. So when I started my business, it wasn't a plan. It was accidentally happening.
Hmm.
It wasn't that all of a sudden, oh, dude, beards are now in. I better cash in on it.
Yeah.
I had no idea beards were in. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
Yeah. Like yeah, like the whole beard thing. I was doing the beard thing before everything else was, you know, became trendy. And,
yeah,
you know, now a lot of people, a lot of people are wearing beards, and,
yeah,
that's great because I think they're fantastic,
yeah.
and it's a decision to grow the beard. Like,
It's a grooming choice, man.
it really is.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but so let's keep going backwards here.
Okay, all right.
So you're now in Sussex.
Yes.
Previously you had moved to Fredericton.
Yeah.
From where? So where are you from?
Okay. I was born at an early age. Do you want to go that far back? Uh,
80.
I was born on an island. It sounds better when you say it that way. Born on an island in the Atlantic.
Okay.
And yeah, I was born on PEI, and my dad was in heavy construction. So he was building the hangars in Summerside. And so that's why I was born there. And I lived in Sackville, New Brunswick, because my father built the buildings at Mount Allison University. I went to daycare there. I tell people I have a degree in clay snake from Mount Allison University. And but most of my young life was spent in the Annapolis Valley of Nova Scotia.
Okay. See,
And
I
then
thought you
in
were from
90
Nova Scotia.
Yeah. So in 93, my wife and I moved to Fredericton the first time, and we have never left. We've stayed here and had our children here. We tried to move. We tried to leave a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And so New Brunswick has become our Hotel California.
Do you come from a large family? Like, is there a lot of siblings?
No, I have a brother who's 12 years older than I am. So that kind of tells you about the element of surprise that my life has been ever since. And because my parents really didn't even have a name picked out for me from the family, I was such a surprise. So I'm not named after anyone in the family. And so it was like having two fathers growing up, because my brother being that much older than me.
Yeah.
And which was good. I mean, my brother bought me my first bike, my first guitar, that stuff, that was good. And I've about, I would say 25, would it be 25, 26, maybe 26, 27 years ago, I found out that I had a sister. So that's like something out of one of these shows that everybody has a Southern accent.
Yeah.
My brother was missing, and we found out he was a love child of Elvis. That's the kind of story it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to this day, I'm very close to my sister,
Wow.
who lives out in Victoria, BC.
Okay.
And she's been in my home since then, and we've met, and I know the whole story. So that was very surreal. So I grew up not having a sister, only to find out I had one.
Yeah.
So that's a story for another day. But
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of, grew up on a farm. My dad liked to be away from things when he wasn't working. And so grew up in a small, I would say, hobby farm, 194 acres of woodlot and fields. Any given time, I think the most we had were maybe 4 cows at one time, where I had to milk them by hand. And we raised our own beef, raised pork, had, a couple of hundred chickens, stuff like that. So, and I still have my milking muscles to this day. Look at
You're swole. You're so swole.
Look, I still have my milking muscles to this day. Anyway, so I mean that was tough, man. Having to milk by hand. I'd go to school and could hardly hold my pen.
Like how old would you have been getting up that early to milk before school?
Maybe 13, 14 when I started milking the cows.
Wow.
So, and I worked in the woods at that age. And that was kind of my eureka moment. I kind of remember mowing seemed like 5 acres of lawn that we had at the farm with an old push mower.
Ooh,
and
not even ride on. Wow.
Well, yeah. Well, true story. I asked my dad years later, I said, I noticed that when I moved out, you sold the cows and you got a ride on mower. And when I was there was a milking machine on the wall. It was there, but I never seen it running. And I said, why was all? He said, I had you. I didn't need a ride-on mower. But he had the best ride-on mower when I moved out. So anyway, I remember, I can even remember where I was on the lawn. At what point I was down by the well, mowing this lawn. I think I would have been 15, maybe 15 years old. And I stopped mowing and I stood there looking around. And then there's nothing wrong with farming. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a great lifestyle. There's lots of farmers around here. But for me, I had this feeling that there was more. I had that there was a voice, inside of me that made me stand there on the lawn and even ask out loud, is there more than this? There's got to be more.
Yeah.
And rather it was the voice of God or whatever it was, but the answer was yes, there is.
Yeah.
And you're going to see it.
So
And I remember that moment.
that was 15. So you would have been soon out of high school. So I know, like you say, that the beard oil and all that stuff came much later and almost by just happenstance. So what was your initial path from that point? Like what career did you want to go and pursue?
Well, I had left high school very early and went into trade school. Back then we had vocational schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there for 3 years and left with a certificate in welding.
Okay.
And I've never used that certificate. I've used a cutting torch a few times. I've done some body work with a welder, but that's about it. Never had a paying job as a welder since that day.
Really?
Because I was convinced that's, but partway through my last year, or almost my last year, my welding instructor came to me and he said, Matt, I don't know if this is the career for you. So I'm not, I met this man as an adult and later met this man through my father-in-law who taught at the school. Fortunately, he didn't know me back then. But I later met that teacher and he said, Matt, I just had a feeling that there was more for you than that.
Than just getting into that trade and doing that whole.
I thought I just wanted to be honest with you. And so I thanked him for that because it made me pursue more than just that, for myself. So, yeah.
So you're now in Sussex. So I'm kind of curious, did you end up in Sussex because of the large farming communities that are around? Like, you're not doing the farming, but it's a lot of that around you. So, I mean, from when you were a child growing up in that environment, I wonder if that kind of was just like a subconscious thing, or
I think that plays a lot into it because this area reminds me so much of where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something, I'm scared to say it because people won't believe me, or they're all going to pack up their wagons and come here. But there's something about Sussex that pulls you in. It's a very welcoming place. It's like it oozes entrepreneurship. Like there's many startups that came out of here.
Yeah.
There was an older story that there was a well-known farmer from this area that actually had something to do with the forming of Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there was a story there.
Wow.
And anyway, so there's a lot of history here in this region. But for me, I've told this story a few times and it sounds kind of made up, but it's really true.
Okay.
And some people that know the players know it's true. When I was a kid, I was on a television show in Halifax called Firehouse Frolics, where kids got to be in an audience and play games for prizes.
Okay.
And I think it was CBC, or I don't know who did it, but it was, and for some reason, I don't know how I got picked, but me and my cousin were picked to go on this show. And it was crazy. I would have been maybe 5 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
5 or 6. And it was sponsored. That day was sponsored. I don't know if every day was, but by Sussex Ginger Ale.
best ginger ale on planet Earth.
Listen, I'm telling you. So I had no idea as that age that there was a place called Sussex, right?
Yeah,
And this clown came out called Gurgles the Clown, right?
that's a
Which,
terrible, terrible clown name.
well, but it was a Sussex clown, Gurgles the Clown.
Okay.
And so he came out and we all went crazy. I mean, the clown, it was bigger than life. And he proceeded to take a big bottle of ginger ale and put it in his pocket upside down. So the pop went everywhere. It was like, I was thinking this is amazing.
Right.
My cousin freaked out, got us kicked off the show or something, but he's crying and freaking out. And I'm saying, don't stop. This is amazing. So anyway, in my mind, I thought, okay, Sussex must have rivers flowing with ginger ale, it must be a magical place. And there must be a clown on every corner.
I mean, at 5 years old, yeah. I mean, I can see where your mind would go there.
And now I'm one of the clowns on the corner,
You literally are. You're part of a mural.
I am.
Yeah.
So, honestly, it's a true story that there was this love affair. There was this fantasy love affair with this place called Sussex.
Hmm.
And I'd always stumbled across the name. I'd only been here maybe once in my life before. I've driven by here like everybody else. And but slowly we ended up getting here.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, it took what, 54 years to get here, but I got here.
Yeah.
It's a long trip.
So you say, so from earlier when you were saying how you were in Fredericton and then moved to Sussex, so it was within a year or two that you started the beard oil?
Yeah. We moved from the city to a ranch, and we were on a ranch where there was like 40 horses and kind of back to my roots kind of thing. There was 450 acres of land, and my kids were very involved in the ranch, and my daughter was involved in horsemanship and stuff. And so I got to ride horses every week if I wanted to. So I had always had facial hair, but never a full beard because I could never grow one. I got to a certain point and I would either chicken out or it would drive me insane, the itching, because my skin is very dry. So I'm deciding, okay, I'm going to move. I'm on this ranch. Now's the time. No matter how crazy I look, I'll blend in, right? I'll be okay. So as it got to a certain point, it got to a certain length, and it was driving me insane. The hair was dry, my skin was dry, and that's when I went, there's got to be a way. And that's kind of when it all started.
Yeah.
And that would be 2011, 2012 area.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 2012.
Yeah, because I would imagine exactly, you would have had to have started the whole formula and coming up with,
oh my goodness,
everything before it.
Drugstores.
Yeah.
I went to grocery stores. I asked everybody with a beard, what do you put in your beard? And no, don't put anything in my beard. Not everybody talk like that, but in my head,
but that's how I hear them.
It's like when your wife describes something you say, you don't really sound like that, but to them, you sound like that.
Yeah.
To me, it's
yeah.
Anyway,
so I mean, obviously you don't have a background in I don't even know what the science is to come up with oils and soaps and all that stuff. So how did you get that ball rolling to come up with a formula and a scent and all that stuff?
Again, this is where my accidental human comes in. That all I wanted to do was come up with something for myself. So again, I'd go to health food stores. The best thing they give me was argan oil, so I would be trying these. I remember when I visited my mother in Nova Scotia, I'd be in the bathroom there trying different things and saying, no, this is not it. There's something missing. There's got to be something more. And then I remember this is one of I have these eureka moments that happen in my life that make me go, aha, there must be something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in a grocery store. I was actually looking for an idea, and there was another man following me from aisle to aisle. I noticed I'd be in an aisle and he'd be at the other end looking my way. And I'm thinking, okay, there's something going on.
Yeah.
Do they think I'm stealing something?
Right. Yeah.
So I was ready to empty my pockets and say, dude, I'm not stealing anything.
Yeah.
So anyway, finally, him and his wife approached me, and she said, my husband wants to talk to you about your beard. And I went, okay. So for the next 5 to 10 minutes, here's two grown men standing in the aisle talking about facial hair, like we bought these new pair of boots, or we got this new jacket or whatever, or two women talking about, oh, where do you buy your makeup, kind of thing, or whatever, right?
Was he a fellow beardo? Like, was he sporting?
He had a better beard than I did.
Okay.
So I was humbled that he was even asking me anything.
Yeah.
And so after this conversation, when he went away, I was already thinking it. I was already trying to find something, and he just pushed me over the edge. He pushed me over that edge that said, now I have to do something.
Yeah.
Because I just met someone who's convinced me there's a need.
Yeah, because you're not alone.
That's right. And see, beards were not a trendy thing at this point.
No.
Beards were not, it wasn't sexy to have a beard.
Yeah.
And so at the same time that I'm trying to come up with this subculture is starting to happen. So I can't even, to this day, I struggle to spell essential oils. So I had to find somebody who knew something. And you got to realize my dad was a man of few words.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing he did tell me, he gave me this advice. He said, if I was you, Matt, he said, I would find someone who knows more than you do about things. And I would keep them around me at all times.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he thought I was stupid or what was going on. So I knew I had to find experts in the field of essential oils and all that. So I found a local soap maker. And when I pitched the idea to them, they looked at me like, what do you mean beard oil? What's that? And they said, well, okay. So they worked with me, and it took, I think it seemed like 6 months went by, because they would make a recipe, and I made sure that I was in the same place, kind of, same setting each time, so that the only thing different was the oil. And so the first thing we had to work on was the scent. And then we were going to work on the rest.
Right.
And you got to realize at this point, I'm really only doing this as a hobby. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to make some for myself, and maybe somebody else might be interested.
Right.
So by that time, where we were living, there was lots of room for other people to stay. So there was a band coming through the area that were either on their way to the States or coming up through the States or whatever. And they happened to stay at the ranch. And most of them were hairy people. They were bearded. So I just thought, hey, guys, guess what? I'm making beard oil, and I sound like that too, okay? According to my wife, I sound like that all the time.
All the time.
But so I kind of did this elevator pitch to them about what I was doing. So they said, man, if you make that, we would even carry it at our concerts. And they actually later did, because they ended up at my house when we moved from the ranch into town. they were at my house when I had the 40 or the 4-liter jug of prototype in the middle of the table. And I poured off little saucers of it for them to all test.
Wow.
So it was kind of funny how they ended up through here again. And so yeah, and I was giving it to everybody to try, and
Yeah.
because at that time, again, beards were not a big thing, but all of a sudden, when you buy a new car, you never notice that car on the road until you buy one.
And
And
then
then
everybody's got it.
everybody's got one, right?
Yeah.
It felt like that. It felt at first like I'm just noticing more beards because I'm beard conscious.
Yeah.
But people were telling me, no, beards are starting to be a thing, right?
Yeah.
So through that, developed the packaging. I pulled every favor that I had. I have no favors left. Like, I've used them all. And if I was like dying on the side of the road, nobody would help me because I've even used that up.
Unless you're
So
within their 5-foot circle.
that's right. If they
Yeah.
listen to me at about the 5, hopefully I've told enough people
Yeah.
that somebody would stop and help me. But I had a niece that married a guy from art school. He was from Korea, and and his specialty was designing packaging for companies.
Yeah.
And so when I told him what I was thinking about doing, he said, I want to help. So he ended up designing our logo, designing the packaging for all the products we had. And right from the beginning, he was like in, and he said, let's do it.
Yeah. So how soon after you developed the scent and the oil did you start like branching out into like the beard balm, like the slumberjack and the bar soap?
I'm so fast and quick that I just do things
Mhm.
like that. But it took me, well, usually takes a minimum of 3 years to go from thought to application, because I overthink things.
Well, I mean, if you do something right, you take the time to get it right the
Yeah,
first time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but what was maddening is that I would go places, like I went to the Barber Expo in Connecticut 2 years. We're talking about 5,000 barbers in one room, and every product you can imagine about barbering. And the first year I went, there was maybe 3 or 4 beard oil companies down there.
Mhm.
And most of them were just advertising companies trying to cash in on a trend.
Right.
That was maddening to see that, when
Mhm.
I was actually trying to produce a product that made a difference.
Yeah.
Right? It was important to me. And that's why every ingredients I picked was picked for a reason, not just throwing things together. It's like, you ask my wife, I was producing it in the basement at one point here, and there's not many wives that would trust their husbands to come up from the basement and say, smell this, there's not many wives that would trust that, but mine did. I would like have a eureka moment down there, and she'd hear me running up, and I'd go, smell, or whatever, and so I actually can show you a book that I had of all the tests that I ran for products,
Mhm.
and they were numerous. And I'd have categories, how do they absorb? How do they look? How do they feel? How's it on the skin? How's it on the hair?
Mhm.
And I would pick ingredients based on these things, because all oils have a different absorption rate. And so I would build my own little scale of how things worked.
Yeah.
And so that's why it took me so long, is because I don't have a background like that. I thought, if I'm going to continue, I need to know my stuff. So I took months and months to learn about oils, what they do, what they don't do, what ones play well together, what ones don't, and a lot of people said, "Oh man, it must be easy just throwing that stuff together." And so when they say, how much does it cost to make a bottle of beard oil? I go, tens of thousands of dollars, maybe.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. And a lot of time. Like
A lot of time.
you've
I spent
invested a lot of time.
many long hours
Yeah.
developing these products. And at one point I only had the three. I had the oil, the soap, and the balm, right? The same flavor.
Yeah.
And that's all I had. And I was happy with that.
Yeah. I remember watching videos on, I don't know if you still have that YouTube channel up, where you were known as the Bearded Dragon, and you would have little vignettes of you, pouring the wax into the little tin canisters.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
And, like very much like transparent and showing the process and that entrepreneurial, like, this is me making the product, this is really me doing it. And I think that's one of the things that drew me to you, was just how personable and transparent. I mean, this isn't the first time you and I have spoken. Like,
right.
I remember I was playing with the Terry Whalen Band in 2015. So this would have been only 2 years in. And I reached out to you because I was doing a summer festival lineup with him. Yeah. And I was like, I want to wear your t-shirt on stage at all of the shows.
Yeah.
So I showed up at your door, and you welcomed me in, and my wife was waiting in the car with our son. And it was just supposed to be a quick, 5-minute, thanks for the t-shirt kind of thing. So you ended up giving me the shirt.
Yeah.
No cost. And we ended up talking for almost 45 minutes with my wife waiting in the car. And this would have been, I think it was still snowing outside. So, so apologies to her for that. But just that, like, you're very welcoming and very open with everything. And I think that's a huge part of why people are drawn to your product.
Right. Because, and I honestly stand by this, that if it just becomes about the product, I'm out. I'll have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But it's about, the product, what it does, the effect it has on the individual that uses it. That's what it's about. And that's why I say, behind every beard, there's a chin. Behind every chin, there's a man with a story. Let's not forget that, through the years, I've had funny situations where men will, it's almost like I become a beard priest, where it's confession time.
Yeah.
Guys will say, "Oh, I used to have a really long beard, but I cut it off, and it was really nice. I promise it was nice." And it's like, dude, you don't have to apologize to me. It's like, dude, say, do penance or whatever. I don't, it's not, I was asking them to do, it's like, but guys, it's a very important part of who they are. And it should be. Men should take pride in the way they look and feel.
That wasn't something that people did back before all of this. Oh gosh,
I love, that's why I'm really big on the 40s, 20s to 40s.
Yeah.
Where men dressed a certain way. They had the, and I, if I could afford to, I would dress that way every day.
Yeah.
Like I wear button-up shirts like this almost every day to work.
Very dapper.
Yeah. When like it's very warm in our shop, or I would wear a vest and a tie every day. Like I have all these bow ties that kind of get missing,
right? But you're still wearing them.
That's right. I love wearing bow ties. I love that era. I love that, taking pride.
Yeah.
In,
well,
well,
I mean, we can get into that now. Like, I know, like you've since sort of stepped back from being the guy in the shop making the products that, 2 and 3 in the morning. So talk about that just a little bit before we get into the barber thing. So what made you decide to kind of take that step back and allow somebody else to sort of be more of a leader in the company?
Again, it was more of an accidental thing that, I had the great success of the Dragon's Den. And a typical entrepreneurship struggle is how to let go of things and let things grow without you. And because I had no experience, I had had my hand in a lot of business things. I had a jewelry business where I did handmade jewelry, and it became, again, the success of it became too much for one person, but I didn't know how to grow it. So I ended up stopping it because it became too much. It's like soon as my hobby became a business, I lost the love of it, right?
Yeah.
And with the beard oil, it was like I should have at an early point brought somebody else in that was everything I wasn't.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I should have brought somebody that was good at administration, good at the background, good at that most important thing, because I ended up having to hire that out. And at one point, I was paying more for the back end of my business than I was getting from it. And so it was way out of balance. And it was, I came to that part where, I had chain stores after me. I had large manufacturing companies in Montreal offering to put my product on their assembly line. I had shoppers that were wanting to carry, I had, all these opportunities come up, but it overwhelmed me because I had not prepared for that.
Right.
You got to remember, this was just for my own use.
Yeah.
And within, like, we're talking 3 years time, you could have, my first year of business, I did $5,000 in sales. The second year, I did $145,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So that's how quick the growth came, to the point where I got lost in the mix.
Yeah. So was the experience on Dragon's Den sort of like an eye-opening moment where you realized you needed somebody to come in?
It was very eye-opening. It was the beginning and the end of many things.
Yeah.
I had honestly never watched a full episode of the Dragon's Den, so I did not know anything about it. If it wasn't for my friend, some people know who my friend is. His name is Marcel Lebrun. He was part of Radiant 6, and very, very generous with his time and so on. And he was hooked on the Dragon's Den, right? And so he really, if it wasn't for him coming and really pulling that out of me and helping me with the pitch, I would have fell flat. He helped me know the numbers were important, make sure I knew my numbers, know the business part of it, so that you give them something to hook onto. And it was because of that I got 2 handshakes on the show.
Yeah.
But
you got
what
2
happened
deals.
After, the deals.
Yeah.
But no fault of theirs, all on me. I was not prepared for what happened. I ended up with a very free infomercial that launched my business.
Yeah.
And if I had been really on the ball and really watching it and being, understanding it, or having the right people in place, that leverage would have launched me like I've seen other companies do. But I couldn't get out of my own way. I'm not gonna sit here and blame it on somebody or something else. I realize, looking back, you got to realize, in a person that complains about things, and this time, that time, and this time, that guy did this to me. The common denominator in all those situations was you, right?
Yeah.
So I have to look at it and say, everything that went wrong, the one thing that was always present was me.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that saying where it's like every group of friends has an asshole, and if you don't know who it is, it's you.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's it. That's a good way to say it. So I realized that I was the one getting in my own way. And so, sure, things could have been different. And if I had to do it over again, I probably would let go of things that I was holding on to and not listen to all the voices I was listening to. Because as soon as somebody would say something, I'd go, okay, let's do that. Oh,
Right.
let's do that. You know, it's like
It's like a dog and a squirrel.
I started to become the believer of my own story. And my story was mostly fiction at that point. And so, my issue was I had the greatest product on the planet.
Yep.
I was passionate about my product, but I was not getting the business in the place that it needed to be to launch it out. And I did make efforts. I tried, but again, I got in my own way each time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, you know, it's better late than never story that now I have a person in control of the business who should have been there at the beginning because they possess everything I don't.
So when I say step away, so you're still very much like controlling part of the company, like as far as the product and like where it's going.
Yeah, it's like it'd be a year in January that the perfect storm. See, the perfect storm started about 4 years ago when I realized I couldn't do everything. And then 3 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. And so that was another processing moment where my mind was not in what I was doing anymore. Like I was shifting my attention.
And so, justifiably so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she went through surgery, treatments, and she's fine today.
Okay, good.
But it was a really hard thing to go through.
Yeah.
And at the same time, my son was moving away, and moved to Hawaii for school. And, you know, there was a lot of stuff going in my kid's life, you know, so those, you know, there was a lot of contributing factors that kind of made me let go of it and kind of let it fall and not focus on it as much. So by the time that Luther came along, Luther is not Lex Luthor, but Luther,
right,
came along, I was ready to hand it over to somebody.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wish I had more to hand over to him, but it took us months to kind of iron out how it would look. But the bottom line, what he wanted it more than actually I wanted it, I think, at the beginning. He wanted whatever agreement we came up with, that I was connected to it big time.
Yeah. I mean, you've been the face, you've been the guy.
That's right.
You know, you're a huge part of that.
Right.
You're like the Colonel Sanders of the beard community.
Well, that's it. And to the point of it, he would say to me, okay, let's look at the products you haven't made, but you were thinking about making. How can we make those?
Right.
You know, like just wanting my list of dream products and saying, let's do it. Okay. And making it happen. And keeping me, I'm still hands-on the product development, formulation. I'm a little bit behind on my video work that I'm supposed to do every week.
Monday with Matt.
That's right. I haven't done one of those for a long time.
I was going to ask if that was something that was going to come back, because you used to do a lot of video content. And as I was saying before, that part of the you know, part of the brand, part of the thing is just, you know, you interacting as a person, because then it's a one-on-one connection that we have, you know, with having a beard and having that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the video content is something that you're planning on bringing back.
Yeah. And again, Luther is the one that pushes me on these things, which is great. It's nice to have somebody that keeps you accountable. And he's really good at that. And so, you know, I'm always the one that says, but, and he'll go, dude, what do you need to make it happen?
Just do it.
And he'll challenge me like, okay, you need this, you got it. You need it, let's do it, you know? And so he wipes away all my excuses to where I'm left with going, oh, I guess I better do this, you know? And so it's just, again, trying to weed through all the things of life. Life has a way of, coming at you in different ways, and being able to set aside different parts of yourself to fulfill different things that you need to do.
Yeah.
So now after 1 year, the dust has settled a little bit on the ownership, and now people are getting to know that, there's a new owner of the company, but I'm still involved. There's a really unique partnering that's happened in this whole situation. We finally got to a place where we can ramp up production if we need to. Again, he's put some systems in place. He took everything that I created, the formulas and everything, that I formulated everything that I can make a cup, or I can make 10 gallons of it.
Wow.
And it would still stay the same. Right? So, and this was done, these formulations were done based on a formula calculator created in a lab. I had actually guy in a lab create the system that my formulas are done on. And he created it so that if I made a bottle of it, I could use this calculator he created and make 10,000 bottles, and they would be the same.
Science. It's beautiful.
So, look, listen, and it was so funny. The guy that worked on it, his family's originally from Sussex, and he ended up working on it in another city, but he worked for this lab, and he was so, but he got me so fired up about it at the time that he's up there working on it. I'm down here working on it too, right? Based on the science. And when we compared notes, he said, Matt, actually, you created a better one than our formulation could. So we're going to base our calculator based on what you created. So that's why I have books and books of figures and calculations.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That truly is amazing. And it's such a cool story.
It's not just a bottle of stuff. There's a lot going on there.
Exactly.
So now we have the other products too.
Yeah. The ginger and
pomade. Well, the ginger was another story. That was another person pushing my buttons, right? And because somebody had asked me to create another oil.
Right.
And he suggested that I have another flavor. And so I hummed and hawed, and, it took, after about 3 or 4 months, he finally looked at me and said, okay, by Monday, I want you to bring me a new oil. And he had nothing to do with my business other than a mentor, and a very good one. And so anyway, I remember it was a weekend that Area 506 was happening.
Yeah. I think the music festival in St. John.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was staying with a friend who happened to be an essential oil guru. Like, everybody came to her for stuff. So I was missing ingredients. So I went to her house with what I had. She added. And so that night, before the next day, that night we created, based on my calculations, based on my recipe, we created this oil all together, put it in a bottle, set it aside for the morning. So the next morning, I hear her in the kitchen. She's going, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So I go out in the kitchen. She looks at me. She said, do you realize what you have created here? So I took a dab and put it on my skin, and I smelled it, and I went, oh my goodness. And that's what the ginger came.
And that's just so crazy, because you came upon that by accident, and it's from Sussex, and your company is the Sussex Beard Oil Merchants, which ties into the location, which also has the ginger ale.
Well, I know. And that's why I wanted the ginger, because I wanted to ode to ginger ale and have the ginger oil. Right. Yeah. And that was my main thrust, was thank you, Sussex. And here's a way for me to thank you, is to have this product, named this way. And it's not just an oil for ginger beards. Like everybody thinks that.
I've got some ginger in there.
Yeah.
I'm not a ginger, but I've got the red beard.
But the red beard did inspire the oil, because red beards are one of the toughest hairs. red hair is very, very coarse. It's the coarsest hair. And a lot of people that have red beards have skin issues, dry skin. And I thought, I want to treat those beards with respect. And so I had sent samples out to all the red bearded people I could find.
Yeah.
And actually I sent a sample to a guy in the States who's like a marketing guru down there. And he's got a great last name. His last name is Odin. And I thought, man, I'd love a name like that. Matt Odin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So he loved it.
Yeah. So you've stepped away, which has given you more time to now you're pursuing again within the grooming community and an ode to, like, the classic era of the barber. So you're now going under the name of the Sussex Barber.
Yeah. Well, again, it just seemed to be believe it or not, that was one of the original business plans I had, was Beard and Barber. And because one of my original plans was to have a one-chair shop where we used the oil, we tested the product and all that stuff. That was my original intent, was to mix those two things together, right? And then I tweaked it a little bit, and we were going to, I was going to convert a motorhome over to a barber shop and call it the Beard and Barber Roadshow, and go from town to town collecting stories of men with beards.
Oh, that'd be a great show on CBC or whatever.
Well, yeah. So I did pitch it to CBC, and I pitched it to another. So anyway, who knows? It may show up yet.
Oh.
So, who knows?
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler alert. So this is why I ended up at the Barber Expo in Connecticut. I was down there just looking at how to grow my business, the oil business. And the two barbers I went with, they kept saying, Matt, you need to do this. This is who you are. Because everybody thought I was a barber anyway. Everywhere I went, they thought, oh, you must be a barber. And I was sitting in classes under barbers who are world-renowned barbers, getting trained right there and still not getting it. Still having the barbers with me say, Matt, do you not get what the universe is showing you? Wake up, Alice. Anyway, so I'm not sure why I said that, Alice. Yeah. Alice in Wonderland. Yes, yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so because I got to sit in a class with the ConunDRUM barbers from Rotterdam, a guy that does hair for Hollywood movies, and listening to their stories and watching them demo and seeing, I rubbed elbows with people now that now I watch videos of them cutting hair, not realizing when I bumped into them there who they were. Like, I had a guy step on my foot. That was the creator of one of the largest products in men's grooming, which is Layrite. It's a brand very big in the States. And Donnie Hollywood, I think his name is, he stepped off the stage right onto my foot. And I think I turned to him and went, dude, that's not cool. I didn't. And the guy beside me said, don't you know who that is? That's Donnie. That's Donnie Hollywood, And anyway, so through that, Donnie hands me his phone and said, can you take some pictures of my guy in the booth doing things? And I said, okay. And I had his wallet and his phone. And so we exchanged cards and stuff. And so those things started happening to where I thought, man, this has got to happen. I've always loved hair. I've always been crazy about hair. I have the first client. I still have the first client, which is kind of like a creepy story. So I sometimes don't tell it because it's really creepy. But I eventually will make it part of my story. I can't tell you the story right now, but I have a plan that my first client is going to be on display for all to see.
Okay.
That's all I can tell you.
I look forward to that.
Oh, yeah. So
Um,
yeah.
so I know you're a man of many talents. I know you're just prior to the call, you were showing me some of the projects you've been working on, some woodworking stuff. Um, but you're also a musician.
Yeah, I was very involved in music years ago. I've been playing since I was like, I think I got my first guitar when I was 11
Mm-hmm.
from my brother, and got guitar lessons from Tommy Hunter and Ronnie Millsap. They were on television.
Yes.
So at night I would watch them on TV and run up to my bedroom and try what I saw them do. My parents didn't even know I could play the guitar for like a year because I wouldn't play in front of anybody. And because I grew up in a very musical family,
Mm-hmm.
three generations of my family were in a singing group together, a local singing group that, you know, that did, fundraisers and stuff like that.
Right.
And so I was very shy to play music in front of them. But yeah, so I have a closet full of instruments that don't get played anymore. I have a mandolin and I have percussion and like a couple of tin whistles, a low D whistle,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple of guitars.
So
Yeah,
so music has always been a large part of your life, even though
it
you
it
didn't.
has been, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely where I was playing like 2 3 times a week, and yeah, so it was very much my kids grew up with it around them, so all my kids are very musical as well, and
Mm-hmm.
have two of my kids have recorded music, and my youngest daughter, she's had a lot of music that she's put on social media and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
And you say your son is now living down in Nashville,
yeah, he's in Tennessee.
Tennessee. Okay.
Lives in
Yeah.
Tennessee, 45 minutes outside of Nashville. He got married in Nashville. He married a
Mm-hmm.
nice, beautiful young lady from the Nashville area.
Yeah.
And down in Nashville, either you're famous or you know somebody famous.
Yes.
So one day, my son messaged me. This is quite a couple of years. Well, it's when he was, I think it's just before, yeah, before he was married. He was dating. He was engaged to his wife. And anyway, messaged me. He said, "Guess where I am, Dad?" And I said, "Where?" He said, "I'm at Loretta Lynn's house."
Oh man.
So I said, "Dude, what are you doing?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm having coffee here with her daughter." And anyway, so at his wedding, got to meet Loretta Lynn's daughter and granddaughter.
Wow.
And it was like, it makes me emotional to think about. She came up to me and I said, "So is it true? Are you Loretta Lynn's daughter?" She said, "Yes, I am." I said, "I'm Matt. I'm Luke's father." She said, "I know all about you. We know
Wow.
about your son. He's been at our place. We love your son. He talked about you all the time." And so it's like, oh, dude, what a great, honor.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I can't talk about my son without getting emotional because he's probably the best man I've ever met in my life.
I would say the same about my son. He's
Yeah.
just turned 17. He'll be 18. He'll be leaving the nest soon, and
Oh yeah.
that
Tough,
whole
man.
part of the life cycle and the
Yeah.
journey is I'm not looking forward to the empty nest. We just had the
No.
one, and
Yeah. We our two girls are so special, and they're, I've been blessed with three great kids that when the rare time that they're all together, the last time they were all together in one place, we had them sing together.
oh
Oh,
wow,
it was amazing.
there's nothing like that family harmony. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
sibling
The
harmony
sibling
is
harmony.
some of the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they all sing so well on their own, but together they make incredible music. But
Yeah.
my son is recording. He's got a recording studio. He was recording when he was in Hawaii. He recorded one of his songs in Huntington Beach, California, and was published on Spotify, Apple Music, all over.
Hmm.
And he's being wooed a little bit from a recording company down there that I hope he eventually gets a good relationship with.
Yeah.
And so he surprises me, does some rap music. I found out when I went down for his wedding that one of the guys in his wedding party is a rap singer, and he works for a record company. And I'd heard about him, and he's an interesting guy. He does not look like a rap, looks like some kid next door, you know.
Yeah.
And I was walking on this path. We rented this retreat center before his wedding, and we were doing paintball or something. And we were walking on the path, and this guy turns to me. He said, "Do you know how good, a freestyle rapper your son is?" I said, "No, dude, I had no idea." So he sent me a video of Luke rapping on stage, freestyle, and it was crazy. So,
Yeah, they'll surprise you.
Oh, they do. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
So I have a part of the podcast that I call the Crash Questions.
Yes.
And they're kind of quick fiery type things. You
Okay.
can get as deep as you want. But my first question is always, and it's the one that's I find most important, is do you prefer cake or pie?
Oh gosh. Pie.
Thank
Pie
you for
all the
that.
way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's been a few cakes, but
Yeah, no, cake is cake.
Yeah.
But dude, pie is pie.
Yeah.
Like I'll quickly tell you a story of how much I like pie.
Okay, perfect.
My mother told me when I was just moved out of home, I was living in the area, and I missed my mom's cooking so bad. So she told me at the local fair, she was going to put a pie in. So I went in looking for mom's pie, and I thought, oh, that must be it. So I bought that piece of pie. Well, I bought 5 pieces of pie and couldn't find my mother's pie. Come to find out, she didn't even deliver the stinking pie. So anyway, that's my pie story. Even after that, I still love pie.
Yeah. There's nothing like a nice piece of pie with a cup of coffee.
Oh gosh.
I love my coffee.
Blueberry pie.
Yeah.
Coconut cream, lemon meringue.
Key lime.
Dude, stop it. Let's get out.
All of it.
Get out of here.
You and I'll have to go to some diner sometime and have a piece of pie.
Hey, come to Sussex. We'll go out for pie.
Perfect. I'm so in for that.
I know just the place. They make the best pie around.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna take you up on that.
Okay. All right. We're going to do
perfect. It. So aside from your children, what would be your most proud accomplishment?
Probably 36 years of marriage.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I would say that's all on her, not on me, but I'm married so far up. Dude,
I feel the same way.
Yeah, I started a club a few years ago called the Men Who Got the Better Deal Club, and I have many members. I'm the president. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That would be the thing that I can't believe that it's been that long, but I'm so happy that we're here.
Yeah. And it's like kind of like how you were saying at the beginning, like where all that time has passed and so much has happened, but where did it all go? Like it just happened so quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. When I go through the wedding pictures, actual pictures, it's like I had no idea back then. You don't know. When we stood there and said I do, I had no idea what I was saying I do too.
Yeah.
And so to think going from that to this, wow, like what happened?
Yeah, that's amazing. So if you had one CD, like we're going to go back to like when you put CDs in your car. So if you had one CD stuck in your car, what one would you not want it to be?
Oh gosh. People are going to kill me for this. Anything honky tonk country. Like, okay. I'm not a big country fan first.
Like Porter Wagner, like
there was a middle-aged, there was like not the new stuff, but not the old stuff, the in-between stuff.
Okay.
Like my dog is dying stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Just I
I get
can't.
you.
I'm sorry, I can't do it, dude. I
Yeah.
can't. Like I was listening to the other day. Somebody looked at me funny because I choose the music a lot in the shop,
Yeah.
but I was playing some Woody Guthrie, and man, that stuff was so good.
Yeah.
And so I like the old school stuff,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah. I'm same. I grew up like in my house, it was, it was George Jones. It was
yeah,
uh Randy Travis,
yeah, yeah.
you
Me,
know,
it was Roger Miller,
Roger
Chet
Miller.
Atkins, Chet
Yeah.
Atkins, man.
Chet
Yeah,
Atkins.
yeah,
You mentioned Ronnie Millsap, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Charlie Pride.
Charlie Pride. Oh,
Yeah.
my parents went to see Charlie Pride here in Miramichi. Where there was
Yes.
a club in Chatham that was called the Urban Corral, and Gene Watson was there,
Oh
and
wow,
yeah, like, you know, Charlie Pride, and yeah, all those
wow,
cats would. It was just a small. I mean, I think it's an Ed Subs now. It was just a
wow. That's
small little shop.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so, what would be your favorite movie of all time?
Oh gosh, I have so many. I can't, you know. Oh, I can't think of like I love so many movies.
Okay, well, let's go with influential film then.
Hook.
Okay, with
Robin
Robin
Williams.
Williams. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because there's one. I actually have the VHS of it, but there was one part in it that changed my life forever. And I've spoken about this in many places. Uh, I used to do a lot of public speaking, and this was like my favorite to go to place. Is that there's a scene where they're trying to convince Robin Williams, Rob or Peter Pan,
Yeah.
he's all grown up, and they're trying to convince him he was Peter Pan, and he's not falling for it. And they're doing this thing in a basketball thing or whatever. And at this point, he's on his knees, and this chubby kid comes over and pulls his face back. Do you remember that
I
scene?
totally, yeah.
And he looks in his eyes and he goes, "It is you, Peter. It
There
is
you
you.
are. Yeah.
There you are." And it was like all of a sudden he gets the revelation that that is me. You're right. It is me.
Yeah.
And then he could fly.
Yeah.
And so I say to a lot of people, you need a Peter Pan moment
Yeah.
where and it might have to come from somebody else to look in your eyes and say, it is you. You can do this. Anyway, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's one of my
I think
favorite.
more people need to do that and do that for each other.
Oh gosh, man.
You know, rather than push each other down, lift each other up.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend in Nova Scotia that if I know that he's going to go somewheres and meet somebody I know, I'll message them and say, 3 seconds, 3 seconds. He'll look at you and say, you're amazing. 3 seconds.
Wow.
And they'll message me back. He said, you're absolutely right. He does it wherever he goes. Whoever he meets, he looks at them right in the eye and goes, wow, you're an amazing person.
Wow.
Do you know how amazing you are? So who doesn't want to hang out with that?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The world needs more of that, especially now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
Yeah.
So what inspires or motivates you?
Oh gosh. Unfortunately, sometimes what inspires me is what I haven't seen yet. I always feel like there's something around the corner that's yet to unfold, and I refuse to miss it. So, positive or negative, it's like sometimes I feel like I'm not quite living in the moment like I should. I'm inspired to keep doing what I do because I know there's something more to discover. I love learning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm addicted to learning new things. I am a library of useless information, right? Right from, things about Gumby. There's so many bits and pieces of information that, I'm so bad. I hate Googling things because I can't stop.
Yeah.
I'm a binger.
You just go down the rabbit hole. Yeah.
I binge Google all the time. and because I want to know the story behind the story. But I find Google gives you too much.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And then you got to filter what's accurate and what's not.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of crap out there too.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess this would be the last crash question.
Okay.
And I guess you could turn this around and kind of make it as to being giving some advice. But what would be the worst advice you were ever given?
Oh, wow. The worst advice I was ever given. Probably that I was not worth a whole lot and I never would be.
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah. That I would probably not be capable of much. So why bother?
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's crazy because you've taken that and you've completely 180'd it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you've accomplished so much and you strive for so much more. It sort of almost defines what you've become.
It may have actually motivated me in another way to prove that wasn't true. But I didn't realize I had a choice until later on in life. And I would say this was because of she was not my mother-in-law at the time. She reversed that statement to me and convinced me that, because I'd given up on achieving anything, but I was still doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. Like I had jobs I should not have had. I was like, yeah, I had gone and done things. I kind of jumped off the farm onto a plane and was at the '84 Olympics in California doing street performances. And so when I came back from that, I met my wife, I met my mother-in-law, and she looked at me one day and she said, I don't think you understand what you can achieve. And she reversed that statement that was put on me. So it was like she really convinced me that I could do things.
That was your Peter Pan moment.
It was. Really was.
That's so inspirational. This chat has been very inspirational.
Well, thanks, man. It's been very raw and real. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the whole point of me doing this podcast when I started it was, pandemic hit and couldn't get out, couldn't go see shows. Right. For me, when I play music and I play with other bands, the being on stage and performing is fantastic. Like that's, you strive to be a performer, but the coolest part of all that is hanging out in between and meeting other musicians and having those conversations.
Yeah,
exactly. Yep. So this was sort of a way that I could do it remotely. And so the podcast sort of it's becoming, putting a light on all of those artists, not just musicians, but artists. And I consider you an artist, from the Atlantic provinces. So I'm focusing on the Atlantic area only, which, there's a lot of great talented people from other places, but I think the Atlantic provinces, when you really look at it, we punch above our weight.
Oh gosh, we have so much raw material here that we underestimate what we have.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife one day said to me, she comes up with these great things that she says. And she said to me, what is it about the Maritimes that we take some raw materials and we allow it to be taken somewhere else and get produced, and then we buy it back packaged?
Yeah.
Why are we willing to give that up? What is it in the people that do that? We have talent like that.
Yeah.
We have talent that we're willing to let go somewhere else when we got to appreciate what we have right here.
Yeah.
Right? It's worth so much.
And I think I don't want to say a benefit to the pandemic, but one of the things that everybody having to stay closer to home, I think, is sort of helping people realize just how valuable we are.
Right.
And that we have those resources.
We are.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is who we are. We're Maritimers are a special breed.
Yeah.
We cluster. We we help each other out. I mean, Sussex is a great example that if someone here in this town has a need, it gets met.
Yeah.
You know, I have a T-shirt that I'm hoping to produce someday. I'm a little slow, but I have a T-shirt that I've designed, and it's Sussex, my town, because within weeks of arriving here, this was my town.
Yeah.
And people here in this town has a way of doing that. You can drive through here, and all of a sudden you feel like this is your town.
Yeah.
Because you've been embraced. And that's a very good maritime thing.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, this is fantastic. I think that's a great spot to end the podcast.
All right.
I really appreciate you agreeing to be on the podcast. And yeah, I'm going to have to find my way down to Sussex and hang out.
For some pie.
For some pie.
We're going to have some pie.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this opportunity.
Man, do I enjoy getting to listen and hang out with Matt. I hope you all enjoyed the episode as well. He's certainly a very motivational and inspiring human being, someone you just want to hang out with. So thanks again, Matt, for being on the podcast. Very much look forward to heading down to Sussex and having that piece of pie. I'm definitely going to hold you to that. So that's it for this week. Got another great guest lined up for the next episode. So as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.